designer of all the tanks for the console. I feel like I've talked enough. You guys know who I am. I'm just going to introduce Jeff Haynes, who is the lead gameplay engineer. He's going to just let me keep talking until Jeff Haynes says,
oh, hi. Yes, I'm Jeff Haynes. As he stated, I'm the lead gameplay engineer. Let's see, I'll just give a really quick overview. I've been on tanks since we started, because I was actually with Day One. I've been with that company almost 11 years. So, was on tanks since the very start, and now lead gameplay team. And then there's this tank.
Hi, I'm Nick Guida. I am the senior gameplay designer at Holdings office in Chicago, and I work on a lot of stuff, a lot of different things that you probably love. Any feature that you like, it's because of me. I did that feature. And the features that you didn't like,
wow, wow.
Yeah, I'm Carl Stewart. I'm a technically designer. I work mostly on.
Oh, my bad. You're just gonna die. I gotta switch you out.
Prototyping new features and build tools for people like me to build that feature.
Oh.
I'm gonna leave this on until it dies.
All right, this is just kind of
This is gonna die.
It's not a roundtable, but we just want to discuss a little bit about the development of World of Tanks for the console. It's really fast, it's casual, we can accept questions kind of in an organic fashion if you gentlemen are game. And Thor, I think, are you going to do the God's work again if anybody needs a question for the mic?
Yes.
Oh, Thor, you're a man on men. I think one of the things that at least I'd be interested in is like kind of a starting talk about is like war stories, which I arguably is the biggest, newest feature to the World of Tanks console. I think that's fair. Everyone?
It was great.
Cool. So like I know personally, like one of the big reasons we even did war stories is we're like, what can we do for someone who is just not going to want to fight 15 people with someone who wants more narrative-driven, kind of story-driven experience, but still is into like the world of tanks, the kind of ethos of the theme, the power and the fun of the tanks. And that's kind of how it all started. Like it was really about kind of pick a tank, go in, experience the story, shoot some guys.
That was breaking his soul.
You guys remember like when we first like started like that's about kind of how the first kind of match just organically started making guns.
Yeah, I think it was sort of like from an engineering standpoint, kind of going down like what is the main flow that you guys want, and how can we support you, and what can we do in the amount of time that we have available. So like as the gameplay team, that involves like the AI people and like what are the main things that we need to address for them. You know, what are the new features in terms of like progression, like tanks, and what, you know, how is this going to work here, and just sort of like fitting all those things in.
I'm saving all my dreams being for Swede.
Yeah, for sure.
The moment they come out, I want to be able to get.
yeah, how many of you guys have played war stories on the console?
But they came out of PC.
Cool. Awesome. 2 years ago, we only had WOT PC players in the crowd, so this is much better. Does everyone like it? Cool. Sing some thumbs up.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
It didn't suck.
That's what we aim for here.
You know, if we ever made a box from it, can I quote you? World of Tanks war stories. Doesn't suck. That's fair. That's fair. Autoloaders suck. You heard it here first. That's good feedback. Huh?
My Czechoslovakian tank says otherwise.
We have a question actually. Thor?
Yes.
My
Oh,
T-57 Heavy says otherwise. My Batjet says otherwise.
Yeah.
Dude, the Panther one seemed like guilty plea.
I don't use the Mauser.
Really?
The question is, have we ever thought about factoring in autoloader malfunction?
Yeah, if you're. I want to be a jerk. Oh no, I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it's just mean. It's like my fantasy football team name. I have Matt Ryan on my team, so clearly I made my team name. We're 28-3 lead. That's my team name. Yeah, I mean,
Oh, better than again.
It could very well. We're talking about the Czechoslovakian tanks and the autoloaders, but before we get into like the specifics of those guys, it's interesting to talk about autoloaders because it's part of our development process, and actually even for like war stories, it's
That's what I
interesting.
do when I'm ever.
What is historical accuracy balanced with gameplay? It is interesting because like when we talk about an autoloader failing, there's a couple things. It's like as the user, I have to know A, why, or at least that it did just happen. Is there anything I need to do to fix it, or do we just do a timer of clearing jam? And do all of your foes need to know that that's happened to you and take advantage of it? Like, do we show this with Eagle Eye? You know, all that kind of stuff would have to work into it. My first base instinct, and I gotta be honest with you because I'm mostly from a console kind of development experience, is like another point of failure that is random potentially and not due to anything my skill or my enemy's skill did or did not do. Seems like it could be really potentially frustrating. I don't know if you guys have an opinion on something like that.
Yeah, I think that, you know, we definitely take ideas like that into consideration when we think about what features we want to implement to add something to the game. And in general, I think, like Jeff said, features where it's more realistic, it's more sim-like. You have to walk that careful line between, is it fun because it's realistic, or is it actually detrimental because it's realistic? And it just jams randomly. There's nothing that you did or that you were at fault for, but just all of a sudden your gun's broken. That can be pretty frustrating. I think people that don't like getting hit by arties have the same kind of reaction where they feel like all of a sudden they're just dead through no action of their own. It's a very similar kind of reaction I think that people would have if all of a sudden their gun just broke. It is a cool idea though. It does make it, I mean, other things that we do in World of Tanks are very sim-like in that nature. When you have a shell hit your tank, we actually simulate every layer of steel, every ricochet. We simulate the shell cracking apart and doesn't crack off in this direction and hit someone. We simulate all that under the hood. So there are things that we do that are very realistic that I feel like maybe add something to it. But we try to shy away from things where we're kind of punishing the player for something that wasn't really good.
Like at
We're talking like this.
Boards on your style. You get a patch
and it
buddy.
just doesn't. God, I hated that.
Or too, I was talking about natural and man-made.
Yeah.
I want to see more of it.
Yeah. For those who didn't get the question, is could we tune any kind of autoloader malfunction to be based on duration of rate of fire, basically? If you're holding the trigger down, you're increasing your chance for a failure, something like that?
Not like just firing more often.
Okay. Like all, go ahead.
Like a first person sequence where you don't have
Before the studio worked on World of Tanks, we actually were a company called Day One. We made these mech games, and there was a mechanic like that where you were shooting too often or going actually overheat. So that's like a cool example of how like maybe we tweak that idea. Like, well, maybe there's feedback to the player, and that's how you know whether or not you should keep firing.
You know what? This is interesting. One of the original reasons we were coming up here is kind of a high and loose version of what is like in game development. I'm going to actually hook onto that feature as an example of how something like that might actually make it into the game. So if the design team decided, you know what, we want to see if malfunctioning autoloaders through overheat or extended use or whatever, we're not really sure. The goal here is that these weapons have a high rate of fire and people are spraying frames. One of the ways we could potentially balance this is if you use it too much, it has a chance of malfunction. What we would do then is probably as the lead designer, would either pick either Nick or Charles in this case, to liaison the gameplay engineering and say, like, here's the high level goal, because autoloaders need to have this new feature, the players need to know how to use, and this is basically, guys make it happen. And I say, we need to make a feature brief. And so then one of you two over there, you nefarious designers, if I handed that to you, what would be the next step? What would we do with that?
So usually we'll make a prototype. Maybe we'll first look at some numbers. Jeff pulled up this great number of spreadsheets earlier during his presentation. We have, volumes worth of data and figures to look at to see is this feature that we're trying to work on coming from a place that, oh, this would be cool, or is it actually rooted in, like, we're trying to address a problem, we're trying to fill a hole, in the design. So once we kind of make that assessment, we might make a prototype. For example, there was a question once of should the autoloaders be able to reload mid-clip? And you would pay kind of a time penalty per shell that you're reloading rather than having to pay for the full clip reload. That's a case where I made a prototype. I handed it off to Max Chaos and our creative director, TJ Wagner, and said, hey, play with it. Does it feel right, one? And also, does it feel like, based on your experience, Max Chaos, does this feel like something that the community would want or respond well to? In that case, the answer was no. Based on his feedback and feedback from QA, people were saying, this kind of makes ours an unfair advantage. And that's a situation where we kind of went through, made that physical prototype, kind of assessed whether or not it was addressing the problem, whether or not it was bringing something new to the table that was positive for the whole community. And then well, in this case, we didn't go through it. There's so many examples of features that we have actually put into the game because the response is very positive.
It's like I'm recording.
Cool.
So I'm not even worried.
Jeff, like you have a unique perspective now. At least you're at a table full of designers, so you're surrounded by people that make work for you. Like when you hear something like this, like what's the engineering perspective on any feature such as this? In terms of risks or whatever.
For sure. I mean, it usually is like, the question I usually try to ask is like, okay, well, what is it that you're trying to address, and like, what are you trying to accomplish, so that we can like really narrow in on like the change that actually needs to be made, and then from if they're comfortable with doing it, being like, okay, well, here's where in the script that you could potentially make that change. If you want to test it out locally, do that, and say that it did like it seemed promising, then it might extend further to like, okay, well, we're going to try this out at Superfest or something. We're going to try this.
Sorry, need to break this.
People on it.
It's MJ, but it's. That's what I had a week. That's what he said, right? Congratulations. Did I see somebody with their phone Googling it? Yeah, no. I don't play it. The same thing. Problem solving. MJ actually, it's a Russian word that means.
M5.
Thank you. Actually, the guy who did a lot of the work on Brothers in Armor came in authority.
Yeah.
That's what that means?
Yep.
M5? Yeah, since it would be a Sherman 5, right? So it was just a Russian way of saying that. It was based off of a novel from a Russian tanker that actually, drove in a Sherman through the war. And so he referred to it frequently as the Ninja in his novel. So our historian, Guru, kind of said that would be a great name to apply to the Russian Sherman in this case.
So actually, that's a great segue as well. It's like one of the things that we actually really enjoyed and wanted to accomplish with War Stories is alternate history. Because like a lot of time, not all the time, unless like the matchmaker makes some sort of magic happen, it's it's Czechoslovakian plus Japanese plus German plus U.S. tanks versus German and Soviet. You know what I mean? So it's tank soup and it's fun. But we wanted to say, like, what would it look like if you did these specific things? And in the case of Brothers in Armor, which is you're a American in, is it Soviet or Russian? You're near Romania, if I'm.
Yeah, you're basically invading Romania to try and push the German forces out.
So with all the tanks and assets we have a lot of opportunity to tell what I think are pretty cool stories, and do a lot more. And they're actually made to be non-contiguous, and what I mean by that is we're not locked in to always have that hero in every war story. Every one of them is their own beast that we could either sequelize or just make a brand new one. And that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we're really excited about the War Stories feature because it allows us to tell stories for the first time in World of Tanks, and it's going to be a mixture of kind of reimagining history, maybe recreating actual battles or making fantasy battles. We've had all sorts of things on whiteboards in the office. We're really excited to bring that to you. And so the next one, Sea Lion, is coming out on Tuesday. So definitely, if you have played War Stories already, check it out. And if you have played War Stories, check it out.
Oh, wait, Thor wants to know what Sea Lion is. We also have a question. You guys want to talk about Sea Lion a little bit? People have a little Sea Lion? Sea Lion or no? You want me to do it?
Yeah, very good question. On War Stories, how extensively are you going to be doing it? You have 4 slots right now. Are we envisioning dozens of these, or just the 4?
So it's funny you say 4 slots, like, because it's funny, like engineering-wise, and I'm like, my port design development brain is like, it's made to be extensible. We had more, there'll be more, there'll be an airload appears, it all works. But then it's just me going, we got it, we built in that system. It has no upper bound right now. We will definitely do more. We'll tell you a little more about Sea Lion pretty soon. We are still working on other ideas that will be more than just one done. when will be done, I don't know. Like, it depends on interest, depends on how they expand, it depends on what cool stories we have. I remember in my talk, somebody said, like, is this cannibalizing your audience? It is not. And then even like, it's interesting, if we make a feature so cool that everybody starts moving into it, how do we solve that? Is that a problem? Like, what do we do about that? So right now, we're going to keep exploring and expanding on more stories, such as Sea Lion. And I can start us off if you guys want.
No, I can talk about
Go for it.
So Sea Lion is based off of a well-documented and planned-out invasion of Great Britain by the German forces around 1942, I believe, 1943.
I don't remember the exact date because we get really into hazy kind of pseudo years.
Yeah. So the idea is that Germany constructed an amphibious force and was able to take on Great Britain. And our story actually picks up with the Germans invading London actively. So you are the literal last line of defense to try to keep the Germans from taking over Britain and feasibly ending the war right then and there. So you take the role of a British tanker trying to fight back and push the British back off of, United Kingdom's borders. Oh yeah, you're pushing the German bombs are. You are the United Kingdom.
So it's kind of an inverse.
The gentleman yesterday said he's playing.
Yeah.
Not exactly, but yeah, it's an interesting scenario because obviously it never happened, but you get to play with like all sorts of crazy stories. It's pretty fun. So we have all sorts of things like that. Who had to go ahead?
Is there a version?
And then nobody
Right
shows up.
now, all the stories are.
I don't have any
We've talked in the past
really
about
I just
doing
read the hell.
different versions of it, but right now they're all just straight on the way we find them.
So yeah, currently
Yeah, I
you
was with
are
Ian last time.
not a German. We actually have a couple different ideas kicking around for different German war stories, but
I stream War Thunder more
like
than anything.
there's a pile. Right now we're just talking about like concept docs, which is like bullet point lists of what if this happened, and we just we'll decide when and if any of these are appropriate for release.
The direction that they're going, we're going to anything.
People are really getting tired of the guys who play day in and day out. I haven't done that in a long time. I play 2-3 hours every other day.
I played that game hard. I played that game. Lost. You played the ever living shit.
So I see Thor seeking a question, but I will say the question essentially said, is there going to be post-atomic war stories? The neat thing about war stories is whatever we need to be, we could do after the bomb, we could do on the moon, we could do a lunar war story, we could do 10,000 years in the past, like what if a mouse had to fight off the Napoleonosaurs? Nothing is off the table in terms of what we could do. We've been sticking to alternate history versus pure fantasy thus far, just because of the context of our game and what our fans seem to be interested in.
Enjoy great games. If you've ever played any of the Neptunian games,
First of all, great game.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Thank you so much.
Looks like I get it.
they're a blast.
The question that I have is kind of a
Especially because they
high level
make
one.
one of the
It seems like
games
you've got three areas
watching those
in your
games.
design concept that have
What's that? Like the world's wall. It's just like, oh, that's
you've got
me.
your
Thanks.
engineering or what you're actually physically able to do in your system, and then you've got the sort of gameplay on it. It's like it's got to be a fun game. You can sort of have a primary design focus in any one of those three areas.
No doubt.
And from a player's perspective, what it seems like is that what you err on, where you sort of lean is trying to be as historically accurate as possible while having really good gameplay, and then obviously when you're able to create the system. But I don't know if that's actually what your design concept is. So like, a good example of this one would be like an 88 versus an right? A standard 88 millimeter round will plow through a original M4 armor straight through the front, all the way to the transmission, right? But in your regular gameplay, it doesn't, because that would be a really bad gameplay. It's a, it's a jerk gun on a steel height. You just able to just kill them and fire straight out.
Oh, yeah.
So like, what I'm interested is in when those points intersect, how do you guys make a decision? I mean, she looks at you. Like, where are you sort of like leading this?
The one I wanted, the one I wanted.
The interesting area.
I wish the lights were pointed down a little bit so you could just
made.
Did you see the one with the incision? Yeah, the next.
That's a great question. I'd love to get all you guys input too, but one of the ways that I personally like to think about any design decision, at least at a high level, is what is the fantasy that we're providing the player? And I use that other than like a story or a narrative or a mechanic. Because like honestly in World of Tanks, I mean there's unless of is a very important word to me. There's two words in it. There's the worlds and then there's the tanks. And I think the feeling of being in a powerful machine and feeling like you command to make a difference on the battlefield and understanding what it was like to a degree at Arcadia speed. Nobody was fighting in order to the floating abstract camp behind them. Being able to feel like this is a slow, heavy, powerful, deadly weapon machine without
You could probably tweet it out
taking
and
away
get
the fun video players and having the same fantasy. I also call that the law of conservation of fun. Like if I let you rip straight through that guy, you're gonna be like, and he's never gonna walk back in again. Those two fulcrums decide, like, well, now we're talking specifically about tuning, which is very much how I typically see it. That's kind of my two philosophies is conservation of fun, what's the fantasy?
My home runs were like off
What's
the
your
charts because I just
fantasy?
swung at everything and I just swung for power.
Where do we take, like, that's just kind of.
I was the guy who baited
I would say, I mean, for me, I think, even though I'm an engineer,
So
I think
Billy
that
B would have liked it.
when I'm playing a game, I want the onus to be, like, to feel like that it's on me that I'm not successful,
No,
not
I'm
that the
not
game
terrible.
is fighting.
I don't think so.
The reason that I didn't kill that guy is because I made a dumb decision or like something like that. So it's that balance of like making it feel like the game is fighting against me and like making me unsuccessful. Like if ages ago, the already would be
And then I got
PC,
asthma
start playing more
I was
PC
like,
and
yeah, that's the world
like
tour, you know.
some of this version stuff would feel like it's fighting, and like then they made tuning stuff to that to where it's like at least okay, I didn't wait long enough to fire my shot or something like that, so that I can at least go, okay, I am thinking about that, and then I can feel good, you know, and progress as a player. So I think that's where, to me, that's what
He hasn't done one, but there's
Yeah, you know, we try to just, we know that the tanks are very important to our players. It's kind of the core of the experience. We try to always, we don't, that's why we make like our special event modes, obviously, you know, holiday modes and all that. We relegate to just that because we know that if the whole game was goofy, silly arcade, it would be World of Tanks. So we do try to walk that line, and it is very much for me a place to go where it's
Take care of your dog.
what is true to the world experience, what appeals to our players, what's within reason. I think, you know, Jeff mentioned not breaking your tracks when you fall. It's not fun, you know.
how much
We made other decisions where just we feel like this is our game, we're going to make it a little different than say Lock PC. Lock PC does its own thing, and that's great, but you know, we feel for our players, this is more fun. Maybe it's not super realistic for the shell not to go all the way through.
everyone has their own
But, yeah, Jeff talks about conservation of fun. That's really important that everyone has fun in this small thing.
But no, yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah, I think the simulation aspect of what makes World of Tanks feel more true or more it resonates better with players because the simulation factors are there. And yeah, at that point, I think it's always sim first, and then is this fun, then tunes, you know? So if you start from the place where you know it's as historically accurate as it can be, and then you decide, well, that is really fun, then you can adjust based off that. Whereas it's a lot harder to take something that is already fun and then try and make it historically accurate. So I think that's kind of the way I would approach it.
whereas the other 150 on that is fired at 750.
Well,
You got a question,
I do.
Yeah.
All right.
That's Russian.
Have you guys ever considered taking the match player after, like, where you drive past a bunker, the guy shoots a machine gun in, you go inside, you don't do anything, just get
But
a burst.
it's the one that also has like.
Oh yeah, we have some maps that already have some maps that are going on, like People Ridge, which released a 2 months ago now. I know there's a bunch of bunkers in that, and they'll shoot at the tanks as you drive by and everything, and they're, you know, airplanes flying overhead.
Yeah, as time has gone on, I mean, you're totally right, that's really fun, that kind of ambient war noise makes the maps feel a little bit more alive. It's something we're striving to achieve some of our newer maps. It's something we certainly strive to achieve with our war stories. There's a lot more like the Zeppelins in the sky and dogfights going on and people shooting at you out windows with machine guns. It is all at this point very aesthetic, visual. It's not going to affect your gameplay because it also would kind of suck if an arty, like a fake non-player arty, just all of a sudden killed you. It's like, what killed me? The game killed you. That's like not fun.
Have you ever thought of trying the state of the world's effective vision, like if a ball hits you, maybe the commander walks out and maybe
Yeah, so the question was like kind of things that inhibit maybe your vision or your performance, but they are maybe aesthetic, maybe like someone throws a flash grenade, whatever, that kind of thing. I think, yes, that's something we are pursuing a little bit. It's something that we can do on console because on PC you could just write a mod that turns that stuff off. On console we have the benefit of it's a pretty locked down platform, so there's not hacking isn't too much of a concern. So we can do those sorts of like.
Mechanically, we already have some of that. It's just not maybe represented visually as much because if you take out the spotter, on the time you have the commander as a version when those go down.
But we do have things like this map is difficult, or the war story is challenging, just because there's a thick layer of fog. And again, on PC, that's something you could like hack out, but on ours, it's kind of built in, and it's not something that the server is like authoring that this mechanic is in fact it's just more of an organic kind of ambient effect, if that makes sense.
And then you have weather variants.
Weather variants, which actually do have vision impediments and stuff like that.
No problem. Just one quick thing and then a question. Quick thing is it's great having bunkers shoot at us. It'd be awesome if we shoot down a plane that could speed.
With a tank shell? I don't think
We were talking about auto wars a minute ago, and I was praying, just pray.
We should have a war story we just have to like.
About a year and a half ago, you discontinued the support for the mobile app for the console players. Are you going to bring that back?
Did you use it before we stopped it?
Yes.
There's a lot of
Everyone in this room used it.
Everyone in this room used it. Okay, cool.
You're it.
Yeah, 100% of our audience is now in this room. Part of the reason that got shut down is honestly use and like the ability to just portal into the website through whatever browser on your phone seemed to be how most people were consuming our content. That doesn't mean it wasn't cool. That doesn't mean that I'm sad that you guys lost something that was awesome. It meant that just the overhead of supporting it was too high, and it was kind of like one of the kind of cruddy things. We talk a lot about fog of war and overheating shells and all sorts of stuff, and then there's the we're a business. So like when that thing started to cost so much for so few people to use, that's just how it went down, and it went away. And I'm sorry about that for people that loved it. It's kind of the facts.
Okay, I got something really quick for.
Yeah.
Okay, so for a console player that doesn't have a Dicker Max.
Second Dicker Max.
You get it, but you have to be willing to answer the question I give you.
You're not going to ask it, so they're...
Exactly.
Oh, high stakes. High stakes. What do you want?
Just
you pick.
I like this guy in the blue shirt right
Blue shirt, okay.
Damn.
All right, here's the question.
All right, if you could change any one thing about the game, what would it be?
I think light tanks float. Light tanks float. Describe, like lunar?
Like no. Sometimes there's a lake in the middle. If you could just scoot across that lake.
Oh,
Like there are some light tanks that do actually float.
I like this answer. Well done.
So there you go.
These codes are like hard metal, so we're not going to throw them in.
Well, not that one.
Oh, not that one. Oh, which one?
Don't get him too excited.
Well, we still won't throw things at you.
Let's not throw things at you.
Let's see how this talk goes maybe later.
Thank you for your answer.
We have another question.
Just start from one of the edges of
We have lots of questions that are coming up. Keep them coming. We'll keep. Make sure we get some on the left.
So you recently mentioned there's going to be a change to the Sovietdeath program, and it seems like you're overhauling it. Are you guys willing to let us know any of the changes that you're going to enact to that, and what you hope to achieve by doing those changes?
I can tell you from a development process only, because the actual process of creating, maintaining, sustaining, and encouraging use of the Super Test program honestly is not something that I think even the development team is 100% plugged into. Yeah. What our main thing, there's Rob, he's pointing at himself, it's me!
That's chaos in the head!
So he would be the person to ask for the details of that, unless he wants to run right up here and tell us right now with my mic. He's not getting up. He's not getting up. He's getting up. Here, Rob, find you, Rob, find you. Thor's volunteering as well. Rob? Yeah!
Right now, we just recently reopened it to start recruiting again. This time, we're going to keep things a little bit smaller to start with. Looking for better quality testers, good feedback and bugs. Previously, a lot of it was just bodies on the server, and they weren't telling us what they found or what their feedback was. So it's going to be a lot of refocus just on testing and people who want to improve the game and help us out.
That's the floor. Thank you, Max Chaos. So actually, before we had a full team handling stuff like that, the development team would handle it, and it was a nightmare. It was just too much to do. So, God love you, Max Chaos. Thank you so much.
I got one over here.
Doro, there's a lot of questions. Keep your hands up.
Hey, to piggyback off the earlier question about the console app being shut down, has there been any thoughts about bringing some of those features that were only featured on that back? Like the tank comparator and the ability to change your, actually see the different ranges of each of your ammo types?
I would love to have that exposed. Actually, honestly, I'd love to have that exposed in the client. When I say client, I mean the game itself. Yes, it's something we should list. It's something we should bring back in the form of where people are actually looking at this data. I think that's an amazing idea. I think we're actually recording this. We'll get it down. We'll figure out a way, the right way to make that happen. I think that's what we should have.
That's with anything, if there's a big outcry for a feature or something, it's not something we ignore. We absolutely will listen to that.
It also doesn't mean we do it instantaneously.
Yes.
It just gets on the list. So it's that weird process. Setting expectations. I think that's a great idea.
And in UI, when we're looking at packages and we're looking at adding skills, consumables, anything of that nature, is there a way in the UI we can actually see that change as far as what are, like let's say, our loading time, our turret, our rotation, things of that nature that are affected by BIA and your consumables that actually show up on our, where we can see compared to just a flat stat that we have to then do our own math on to figure out what the actually our percentage of pickup would be?
That's a really great question, and it's actually something we've looked at, just kind of wanting to validate that this skill or perk is active, that it is affecting things.
It did this specific thing.
And it did this specific action. That's something that we have looked at. One of our concerns is we have just so much going on in the UI right now in the HUD while you're playing. And trying to find the room for all that is a little tricky, but it's not something we walked away from. It's something we're still thinking about, and it's great feedback, yeah, for sure.
For the longest time in World of Tanks, we've only had like standard battle encounter, assault, and some destruction. Are there any like new game modes being brought out for multiplayer?
New game modes for multiplayer. The short answer is yes. So one of the things we're always doing is trying ideas. A lot of them you guys never see, and who can guess why they never see them? They're garbage. That's right. That's one of the neat things about gameplay design is sometimes you make something and you're like, oh my god, we just dropped the deuce on the table. Somebody clean that up, and then hope to god it never makes it into your hands. So that doesn't mean every single gameplay mode we tried, besides the ones that have shipped, have been bad. That means we haven't found one that moves a needle that we're satisfied on to even get into super test.
And that's just skimming the surface of Jeff's colorful metaphors.
I feel like I'm doing a really good job so far. I've sworn once. Like, that's a record. Sure. Anyway, there's more.
Other tank lines, particularly Swedish or others?
Other tank lines, you know what? You waited, right? Because you asked that exact same question on the first one. You were waiting. Like I said in my previous talk, once this panel is over, you will probably have a little more information. Not to be coy, but I'm going to be coy.
In operations, you gave us a choice of doing the 3 operations plus adding like the crew boost and things like that, which are really nice. If we did something like that with consumables, I mean, when I'm sitting there with 3 consumables, do I want to go without my fire extinguisher or my rations or something like that? It would be nice to be able to have maybe a separate slot or something like that if you wanted to do something that would boost your team individually instead of just with the tank.
So like a fourth consumable slot with new functionality?
But no, only like the rations or something like that as an option. So you still have your free for your equipment, whatever, but one for the crew.
Oh, I think that's an interesting idea. I don't whether or not that takes up a fourth slot or not, I don't know. It's just an interesting idea. I have no yes, we thought of that and that would be in this form, but that's an interesting idea. Unless you guys have thought about that. You guys talking to each other, you're not even paying attention.
No, you would just, all that would happen is you would say, hey, we want to do this, and then I go, yeah, we can make that happen.
Oh, that's what it is. So that's engineering and design and that's it. Yeah, we would do that?
We've technically about stuff like that. We have talked about stuff like that. We talked about doing stuff maybe a little differently with equipment, for example. We talked about a lot of things that we haven't done.
We did increase the number of consumables.
And you can double up. You can have like 2 repair kits or maybe like 3 repair kits. Two max on this.
Yeah, that's
It's something that we will continue to look at for sure. Yeah.
Yes, going off the other gentleman talked about game types. I remember last year when you did the 100th anniversary of the tank, the World War I week, there was a game type for the PC where one team had to protect a Mark I moving across the battlefield and the other team had to try to destroy it. And that was something very different from the standard battle pack that worked there. Would you consider maybe an extension of that?
I think that maybe War Stories may be a great home for some of those features, those kinds of gameplay modes. I know that when we were also approaching doing a Mark I event, we thought it'd be more fun to play as the Mark I than destroy the Mark I, or protect the Mark I, sorry. But yeah, I think what we would like to use War Stories for, I think, is to find variety in gameplay. Tell a narrative that's compelling, but also find that kind of variety. Mix things up a little bit, because there's a population that plays the game that wants a little bit more than just multiplayer battle, or after multiplayer battle, they want to try out other types of gameplay like that.
Arlette, are you giving me the one last question? Hand, okay. I was making sure. She was rapidly doing this, so. Last question. No pressure.
Okay, in games you got the tugboat, and you got Lunar, and you got the toy tank. So for future gag game ideas, I know previously one of the first mini games you had were a tank running around shooting lobsters.
Yeah.
How about a gag game where 15 people shoot giant lobsters on the map?
Is that a reference to something that I don't understand?
The lobster attack?
Lobster, yeah.
What else do you use a tank to shoot at? Okay, I mean, come on. No, I think that's a cool idea. Actually, we love event modes, and I would not be surprised if a new event mode was super exciting sometime in the future. I'm being really vague for purpose, but I will say that. Actually, that's an appropriate laugh over it. So, yeah, I think that was our last question, Arlette? Yes. Okay. Oh, it's called Secrets. What do we got? Hold on. We weren't supposed to talk about that. What was that?
Oh, come on! Such a tease!
Coming tier 1. Look at those things. All right, Swedish line. 19 tech tree tanks. We got one line that goes light to heavy. I think it's a light, 3 lights, maybe 3 lights, 4 mediums, 3 heavies. Then we got 9 TDs, including siege mode TDs. Is everybody familiar with siege mode? Let's let this play a little more. I'm really excited about it. Did someone just ask for an autoloader siege mode tank?
Yes, please.
It floats.
It also hovers over.
There we go, look at little cutie.
Sweden.
There you go, Swedish bikini team. I heard someone over there say.
That's the prep tank. Yeah, that's
All right, so
I bought it.
just a tiny bit. It's super exciting. So yes, the Swedish line is coming to World of Tanks Council super soon. You guys know how we roll. It's going to be a couple premiums.
Yeah, tell us what's up on the screen.
No, I'm not going to tell you anything about that premium up there. The Tier 8 starts, God. All right, Swedish names. It is the Steedsvap, I think is how you pronounce it. The next one. The interesting thing, this is a siege mode tank, which is a special type of TD, and I'm gonna assume not everyone knows the hell a siege mode TD is. Sweden made a really interesting tank design that they decided the gun is fixed to the hull as you can make it. There's zero deflection or depression or rotation at all. What happens is you go from a mode that is either drive or cruise mode, and then they switch into what is called siege mode, which actually engages a different engine in the tank, which I believe some of the Swedish tanks were the first ones to use a turbine engine, like the Abrams does. But once you're in siege mode, the gunner has complete control of the vehicle and has to actually turn and raise and lower the chassis with the actual the chassis tracks in order to aim and fire the gun. And the pros and cons of that is your maneuverability and mobility just turns to garbage, but your precision and your dispersion is like a laser beam. So like you basically need to haul, it's like a sniper in the truest, purest sense of the word, where you don't stay in one place, you move, you siege, you destroy, you move away. And it's a much different kind of gameplay style, and it's pretty cool. There, again, did I already talk about how many of the line guys?
Maybe we should, that's a good trivia question, because we have a lot of things to give away, don't we?
Oh, that's right, we have tons of stuff. I did say how many Tech Tree tanks are in the Swedish line. Does anybody remember? Do I have to pick or do you have to pick? All right, I'm going to pick, let's see if I can go, gentleman with the reverse baseball cap and the black t-shirt. He's lowering his hand, he's looking behind him, he's got his hand back up again.
You got a tier 1.
Oh, higher, who's now, all right, you pick the next person.
Including the premiums, it's like 21. 21, 22.
19! Yes. He's a winner! Congratulations. All right, what's next?
Can I just point out something?
Yes,
that
please.
We didn't touch on.
Yes.
This is the first time that anybody saw that outside of the wargaming company.
Is that true?
First time they got to see Swedish tanks on console. I think that's the way you guys out here. So don't tell anybody.
Until later tonight, sorry.
Cameras are only on the panel for it. You just
Does that mean we're on an NDA now?
All right, fair enough.
Okay, so I've got a ride button, one sticker, and a pin. You have to answer a question. Console player, maybe PC player too.
Any player.
Anybody.
It's a player.
Any player. If you are in this room.
All right, here's your. What's the question?
Okay, the question is tank packages, yay or nay?
Whoa, risky.
Get it right.
Yay. Yay.
It says yay.
I like it. I implemented it, so I had to.
What answer?
No.
All right, what else?
Hey, Nick, grab somebody, pick something, go for it. Put Nick on the spot.
Someone raise your hand.
There you go. No, the back. I didn't think of that.
We haven't done the back left too much, so red shirt and far back left.
Oh, he said I got the Cantigny shirt from last year. Or
Yeah,
2 years
I
ago.
like your style.
What's the question?
My question, which I've been thinking about and have prepared for you,
That's a stalling
Which
question.
I'm about to say right now.
is... Okay, all right, so we're talking about Swedish tanks and the siege mode. Can you tell me Can you tell me what class of Swedish tank that is exclusive to?
Tank destroyers.
You got it.
Yeah. Right. Pick your next victim while I give this out.
And also think of a question beforehand. Okay.
You came prepared. Who wants to answer a trivia question? I'm roaming. You point where I go. Right here? Right here? Go on. You didn't even look up. I chose. I was always.
All right. So we have a premium custom tank, but it's not up there anymore. But if you can remember, what is it painted to look like?
That would be the Swedish flag.
That's correct.
Yeah!
They don't give us these photos even, so you guys are pretty special.
Can we put that back up on the screen, or are we going to get in trouble?
It takes memory. You have to be able to remember things.
One more time. We can talk over it. It's just, I just want to see it.
I just want the two.
All right, we got any more stuff to give away?
Yeah, we got one good one. We're actually doing it right now.
Wait, we're writing out signs?
No, we're gonna ask someone if you can prepare how to pronounce the Swedish word for tank. And we'll write it out for you, but you have to pronounce it correctly. Get your IKEA on, think deep.
I see people already put their hands up because they know. I'm over here.
Yeah, this is for 23488 and 30 days free.
Yeah. We're gonna be super strict with this because this is for 3488.
So who's going to be the final judge on the pronunciation?
We're gonna vote, and you're gonna break any tie.
Okay, there you go. All right, here we go. So this is your pronunciation.
I'm going to take a wild guess and say tank.
I'll even show you.
I saw a hand in the back here that was up before we even asked.
And I'll even show you the word.
As he's Googling how to figure out how to pronounce it.
Google says tank is
What?
Google says tank is tank in Swedish.
There's a specific word that is written on this piece of paper.
The guy over here. Going nuts. One more time.
I think that's a thumbs up. Yeah. Well done. Yeah.
Got it? Okay. There it is. Oh, man, this thing's heavy.
So the interesting thing, for those who didn't know, was neutral during World War II. They did go and develop tanks. They did develop war vehicles. Sorry for that little bit of slang there. It's Stridsvagn, which is, you can pronounce it way better than I can. They actually had a lot of their initial inspiration and reference from German tanks. So actually a lot of even the lower tier tanks, like the Tier 3 Light, which is I'll just call it the M40L, because I don't want to pronounce that word again. It has really good gun depression. It looks German, at least it does to me. You can totally see the influence. But then as you get into the more modern tanks, like again, the siege tanks, it kind of took on a life and a design of their own. Another thing that I think is a really cool hallmark, especially the siege tanks, is there is a grill on a lot of the higher tier, I think it starts at actually tier 9 and 10 of the siege tanks. That's not a cow catcher, it's not to ram. It's actually as HE shells would hit your tank. They would hit this grill and blow up, and yes, they mangle the grill, but it wouldn't even hit your armor. And your armor deflection is, you're damn near a table. So like the amount of angle, the thickness of that armor, if they hit you dead on, is impressive. Just don't get hit by an arty shell or have anybody with a height advantage on that. It can go really bad really quick.
And then they developed AP, FS, and DS, and it's like, well,
all right, so I've got this 3XL shirt. I don't have one of these, but I do have a question. I actually have a question. Okay, if you can tell me the name of the fourth war story that's due to come out that we didn't talk about up here.
Oh, it is.
We
got a guy waving. That's sneaky. I like that.
That takes a real knowledge, we didn't even mention it by name.
No, this has to, you have to come in this world with that knowledge.
That would be Kennedy's war.
The man knows Kennedy's war coming later this year.
All right, I think we got the 5-minute warning about a half hour ago.
Oh, keep it rolling. You got any more stuff to get rolling?
Oh, I'm just gonna keep it rolling. Oh, okay. So, you know what? I'm gonna put Charles in the spot. Charles, give away something. Pick somebody. Do some cool stuff.
I'm gonna cop up what Jeff had going here. And I'll do a pen and that. Oh, we're gonna look good. I'll start with the pen and cat tank. Based off of where sea lion takes place.
What's your question?
Where sea lion takes place.
Okay, great question.
Everyone
I'm gonna go straight to the back. Have them to the back. All right. There it is. He's got it. Okay. We don't know.
All right, here's another one. This one is for all of you that have been in this room for far too long. Is what tank did I use as a touchstone in my previous talk?
Wow. Oh, I know that one.
Everybody remembers that.
Yeah. I'm actually really happy about how many people stuck around for the whole 2 hours. Stop. No, now you're pointing at me. Stop.
Oh, there it is. That was a good system.
T95.
T95.
There it is.
That's really good. I got some stuff. I got a nice softball.
Is this last one, Arlen?
I got a softball question.
Softball question. Is it literally about softball?
But people have to raise their hand and they'll ask it because it's that much of a softball.
No, this is just pick somebody before.
Actually,
Far back?
Yeah, all the way in the back.
All the way in the back. All right.
Run fast.
What's the question?
I'll tell you when you get there.
What?
You'll find out in due time for.
All right, it's a multi-part question. Nick, what's the question? Jared, wait, how did you know my name? Wait, that's not the question. Are you this is a multi-part. Are you a World of Tanks console player?
Yes.
How long have you been playing?
3 years.
All right, can we confirm that?
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, what's your handle?
Yeah, look him up on the World Tanks Console Companion app.
And
It's getting ugly in here.
And my final question, what is the average speed? What's your favorite tank? That you researched, that you own in your depot, in your tank?
The EZ8. The M4A3E8.
Great. That earns you
That's it.
a Digger Max.
Oh, I have it right here. Really put some thought into these questions. Do you play World of Tanks? Wow. Asking the hard-hitting questions up here. Ooh. You guys are sweating under the pressure of it. Anything else? Come on, you got some.
I got stuff right here.
I see some
hard questions. I got.
You're done. You got some stuff here. You got a code. You got some pins. Come on. Clearly they're up for the challenge.
Yeah, pick somebody. I'll have
I'm gonna pick right up front. Wait.
All right. So the question is, let's keep on war stories because it's right in the dust. How many chapters are in Brothers in Armor? 3. Good.
That's correct. And if you ask how many chapters in the other war stories, the answer is also 3. Help for anybody else. I'm gonna walk around this way. Hey, what's going on? Here's a code. Okay, chill out. Anybody back here?
She did a great job.
Right back here.
Okay, so are people aware of who has played our holiday mode in the past year? Toy Tank and Retreat. Okay.
I get back to my hotel.
Oh, that's a lot of hands. All right, I'll go for the front. You, sir.
I came to the back.
Nope. You.
Don't blame me.
Everyone plays 2-star.
My question for you is, having played the Toy Tank, what is that tank based on? Or it's a reskin of an actual tank. Can you lie with
Can you phone a friend?
No.
No, keep going. What if I turned away this way and you just missed? So what's, oh, look at those beautiful lights, okay. What was it?
BDR, yes.
Yes! Oh,
That's what I say.
excuse me. Oh, handicap thing. There you go. Okay, now I'm going to the back.
All right, I got an insanely hard one. This also has to do with the T95.
You're looking
And to be honest, I had to do a little cheating on this. But who knows for the 120 millimeter T95 gun, how many millimeters of penetration does the APCR round do? Do that.
Ah, and the hands go down. All right, I see one over
If you're
here.
close enough, I'll give it to you. But
All right,
there is a magic.
268.
A little bit higher. I want a little bit higher.
Ooh, 268. Over here, somebody I haven't talked to yet. Okay. 276.
What'd you say?
276.
A little higher, but I'll take a round number that's super close. But we're not there yet.
298.
Oh, one off, but I'll take it.
One
297.
off. Okay.
That's good.
There we
go. 276.
I'm the price.
I think I've well, there's one more. There's
Yeah,
one
there's
more.
one. I have a pen here too.
Huh? You got a pen?
Pen?
You have a question?
Codes up here.
Okay.
Come on.
I got another,
Making you work
I have
for it.
another event question.
Oh, an event
question. Who wants to answer a question about our nautical themed event mode from, I think it was last year?
Go back here. I saw it shoot up.
Yeah, you picked this time. Actually, you know what, Nora? How about someone?
Yeah, I'm over here. I'm over here. Okay, wait, I know what the question's probably going to be, so I'll wait till you go over here. Okay, what's the question?
Okay, so can you name for me the tank that we used in that mode, which also happens to be my favorite tank and the best tank in the game?
The best tank in the game would happen to be the Tog 2.
That's
Yeah.
right! You get a Dicker Max, which is
There you
a
go.
close second.
All right, here's another question that's a little easier than the T95. Who knows, and this is, well, if you know the game, it's not that hard to find out, I don't think. What tier 10 blocks the most damage? What blocks the most damage?
The mouse.
The mouse, indeed.
All right. I got it covered right here.
All right, I got one for somebody.
Okay. Can maybe the crowd can ask a trivia question of one of you guys, and if they stump you, they go, wow, let's try that. You've gotten a sense of how the question's been going, you know? Just like, what's the name of this tank? How big is this? All that sort of stuff. Who's got a trivia question they want to ask one of our guys up here?
No, that's fast.
Yeah, you gotta ask them. They'll get them. Okay, I see one right here. Let's go nuts.
Very fast.
He answered the question.
What was the top speed of the lunar tank?
Pretty fast, specific.
It is.
Yeah. Not so easy, is it?
I remember, oh man, way back machine, was it 70?
I think it's 72.
72 kph.
Yeah, 72. We got it. That's correct.
Actually, our answer is
Yeah. Well, wait, how did that work out? They stump you, you get it right. It's all about having fun here. All right, we got a question here. Give them a really tough one. Well, that one's good too.
What tank was advertised as a free garage space?
What's it? Say again, I'm sorry.
What tank was advertised by World of Tanks as a free garage space?
As a free garage space.
You know, I'm not going to take it through this one. You're part of publishing.
I don't know if I fully understand the question.
I think he's saying what tank is so bad we've even advertised the tank. We're advertising, hey, here's a free garage.
I have an opinion. I don't know if it's the.
Do we need to plead the fifth on this one?
This is not going to answer your question, but if I had to pick a tank that's wasting a garage slot, for me it'd be the Bison. That thing. Oh, not. But I don't know the actual answer to your question.
It was given to us for free. It was advertised as a free garage.
We give away lots of free tanks. We don't know.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
Oh, was it the reindeer tank? The Blitzen?
That tank was cool.
Blitzen's awesome.
It's a free tank.
Before you say the answer, anybody else know the answer to this? Over here. What's the answer?
Answer 2E.
That's it. I'm gonna get a code. All right. Great question. Anybody else doesn't know anyone else know? I used to have a haircut. It's a good question. All right. Tough trivia question. On a level of 1 to 10, how difficult is this question going to be?
Probably a 9 or 10.
We got a 9 or a 10 coming out here. Here we go.
What is the shell velocity of the Object 140's standard ammunition?
Guys, this is also, I just want to tell everybody, it's my ATM code. Sorry.
It's your what?
It's my ATM code.
All right. I'm gonna guess, and I'm gonna be wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Wow, that's a combination. Look at this.
Perrier. Was that a Spaceballs reference?
Yes.
All right, anyone? No, nothing?
No.
Okay, so.
Wait, before you answer, does somebody know the answer to this?
Yeah, that's what I want to see. Anybody else know the answer to this?
We got a hand over here.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's the only hand I see on
That's
this.
interesting.
1,535 meters per second.
All right. Oh, it's high, low.
But it was super specific.
All right, it was very close. He says, what is the actual answer?
1650.
1650. That was close. All right.
You heard it here first.
15. So you go for a valiant effort. You were the bravest person in the room. Trying to answer such a hard question.
Okay, what was our first hero tank that we saw? Very
I
first
know
one.
the answer to this.
Do we need to define hero tank?
No,
Yeah.
you were at my last talk, you'll know what a hero tank is. This is school. Thor's finding something.
I'm coming back here. Here we go. What's the first hero tank?
First hero tank was?
I had to ask you this first. Are you counting before you made definition of hero tanks? Because the first one technically is the Freedom card, correct?
The Freedom is correct, and also bonus points for saying it's a retcon Freedom tank, or a retcon hero tank, so double points for you, yes.
Oh, okay, there you go. I got it. Sticker map.
The Tyrion pocket.
Hey, just a quick note for anybody that's getting these big max codes and you don't speak German. Sorry, because it's in German in the back.
The code still works.
They work, yeah. It's not going to turn your game into German or anything. Okay.
If you've got nothing left, I've got one.
Oh, that's the last one, okay.
This is the last one.
Let's do it.
Let's see.
You point to me, you point.
What was the name of the first console exclusive random battle map?
Wait, what?
I know, Jeff.
You'll get this. All right.
We've got,
Pick one.
I got this gentleman here with the green trim.
Green trim. You got it. All right. What was the question again?
The question is, the first random battle console exclusive map's name was?
Cable.
No.
Ooh, so close.
Number 2, I'm going to go over here. Let's see. The gentleman who had the high armor penetration, or the speed, the velocity question. I want to get
Velocity question. Okay.
Just do it again.
All right. See, if you get this right, codes for your whole table, so pressure's on.
Was it Sacred Valley?
It was not.
Oh! Now you can follow up for yourself.
Pearl Island.
Pearl Island.
No, but you're close.
Very close.
I know the answer.
All right.
I know it.
Where am I going?
Someone's doing the ooh ooh in the classes over here.
White Park.
No!
Oh, man.
Let's see.
Or do we need some real
Siegfried Line?
No! Alright, this guy's going crazy. It's slow.
At some point, we're just going to name all the maps.
This is a good question.
Michael Ridge.
No!
That's another exclusive.
Jeff.
Eye patch.
All right, here.
This is bad.
Come on.
Jeff, do you really need someone to say it?
No, wait, we got one over here.
Need someone to say it.
Pick him up. All right.
You guys don't get this. This is ridiculous.
Was it a Pacific guy?
Yes! There it is. There you go. Congratulations. First snap made from 100% I honestly thought we were going to be here like that. Wow. A lot of people were sure about that.
I didn't know its original name.
That's all I got.
Okay. Well, that was the Chat with the Jazz presentation. Let's give them a round of applause. We have some raffles coming up over at the tent a little later on. 3 o'clock, is that right? Right on? 3 o'clock raffles. We got one more presentation up here with Rybot and myself. It will not be anywhere near as entertaining as these 4 gentlemen, but we'll try our best. So have a good time. We'll be back, what, 10 minutes?
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
It's going to be a 20-minute presentation, quick, very short. And again, if you took any pictures with your cell phone of the Swedish stuff, just do me a favor and throw your phones into that trash can back there. We can't let anybody know that that happened. Thank you.